On Thursday, the Albanese government revealed at long last the question that will be put to the Australian people at the referendum to change our constitution to, if approved, establish an Indigenous voice to Parliament. Now, we know that the question will be a very short one.
The question that Australians will be asked at this year's referendum is a very simple one. It will read, a proposed law to alter the Constitution to recognise the First Peoples of Australia by establishing an Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice. Do you approve this proposed alteration?
Make no mistake, the simplicity of the question here is tactical. Most people can understand the desire to be recognised. Albanese would use this to insert a new Chapter 9 into the Constitution in these terms. 1.
There shall be a body to be called the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice. 2. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voice may make representations to the Parliament and the Executive Government of the Commonwealth on matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples. 3. The Parliament shall, subject to this Constitution, have power to make laws with respect to matters relating to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander voice, including its composition, functions, powers and procedures.
Okay, so here's what we now know as a consequence of that announcement. This body will consist of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and have the purpose of providing its advice to both the Parliament and the Executive. That means that it has an advisory function, not a veto on policy or laws. However, as Prime Minister Albanese has made clear, it would be a brave government that didn't follow its recommendations.
Well, it would be a very brave government that said it shouldn't.
In fact, it presents the very real risk that decisions of Cabinet that don't follow the advice of this body will be subject to review before the courts to ensure that the right factors were taken into account and given appropriate weight in the minister making their decision. Now, why does that matter? Well, it amounts to unelected judges having the final say on the work of elected, accountable ministers. Now, you might not like politicians, but at least you have the chance every few years to tell them precisely what you think at the ballot box. Not so for judges. They're never held accountable. There's a reason why the Law Council of Australia wholeheartedly supports this proposal, and that's because it will be a lawyer's picnic. And those matters relating to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, well, what does that mean? That means everything. Not just native title and cultural heritage, for instance, but tax, health, justice matters, security, the economy, the environment. It's the lot. It would be madness to suggest that the matters that relate to Aboriginal people are somehow narrower than they would be for any other Australian. The consequence will be to throw sand in the gears of government. I mean, if you think it's hard to get a law or a repeal through the Senate now, you ain't seen nothing yet. Imagine when you have to do all of that, plus negotiate it through the so-called voice to Parliament, and then through all the subsequent court challenges. It is bureaucracy and delay on steroids, and all the harm to prosperity that comes with a government in paralysis. And we do know that once it's in the Constitution, it'll be near impossible to get it out. When ATSIC proved neither effective nor transparent, it was possible to pass legislation to try a better way. But constitutional entrenchment of this proposal means there will be no such flexibility. Albanese can't keep hiding behind this line.
This isn't about veto or third chambers or anything else. It is about consultation and respect.
Ask any Aboriginal person. They're already consulted to the hilt by a bevy of government bodies and respected by acknowledgements at schools, speeches and events at something of a record rate. According to the Productivity Commission's Indigenous expenditure reports, Australian governments spend about double on each Aboriginal person as they do on non-Aboriginal Australians. And here's what we still don't know. We don't know which Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people will actually be on it, how many, or how they might be chosen. They might be voted in, they might not. Appointment by government or by local elders, or by the decision-making methods of localised particular tribes. We don't know if they'll be paid or not. It's not clear whether they will be local bodies, regional or national bodies, akin to a Chamber of Parliament, or all of the above. And it's still not clear how, importantly, it would solve any of the problems facing the about 20% of Aboriginal people who still live in unacceptable circumstances in this country. It's still not clear that this is even wanted by Aboriginal people outside of that elite who benefit most from a constitutionally entrenched stream of funding. The fact is, there is no one Aboriginal voice. Aboriginal Australians are as diverse in their thinking, goals, beliefs and politics as all of the rest of us. And to be honest, to put it any other way is to reduce what are unique individuals into an undifferentiated mass and to deny their human dignity as people, as individuals. But there are Aboriginal voices in Parliament right now, 11 in the current Parliament, representing people from their patch of all walks of life. In their different ways and from their different perspectives, they do a good job of it. And not all of them support this constitutional change. And they sit in our Parliament in numbers exceeding their proportion of the population, using the whole of their skill set to serve the whole of the community. Their thinking is as diverse as, well, Linda Burney, Jacinta Nampijinpa Price and Lydia Thorpe. And this proposal preys upon the genuine desire of good Australians to help their fellow Aussies. And it does so with a false promise. That is, that because some other things haven't worked, this must be the answer. Anyone who's done logic knows that doesn't work. So what will we get if this thing gets backed in? Well, we'll get a practical, if not a technical, veto over the work of our democracy by a new Aboriginal elite. We'll guarantee a consistent stream of taxpayer money to those elites who control the Aboriginal industry without real change on the ground. And we get near permanent differentiation of Australians into two classes of people with different rights in our democracy, all based on the colour of their skin. That's not an Australia I'm prepared to vote for. And I reckon there's a lot of quiet Australians out there who feel the same way.